and welcome. My name is Lauren with Second Star to the Right, and I'm so excited to share with you today two of my very special friends that want to tell you a little bit about their latest picture book. Please welcome Charlton Trujillo and Pat Zietlow Miller. Woo!
Hey everyone, I'm author Charlton Trujillo.
And I am Pat Zietlow Miller.
And we are the co-authors of the book, Lupe Lopez,
Rockstar Rules.
And it is available in both
English
and Espanol.
And Lupe is the story of a girl that goes to kindergarten convinced that she is a rock star drummer. And she gets to kindergarten and realizes that her rock star rules are different than school rules. So how is she going to figure out how to be a rock star and a stellar student?
And if you want to know, wink, wink, loosely based on my childhood. So
come and listen to us do our reading with Second Star to the Right books,
where there are giveaways.
So if you want to watch this story, you can join us for the story time, or you can go ahead and click the link in the bio, get your copy of Lupe Lopez, and you can get a temporary tattoo with every purchase. Don't miss out. We'll see you soon, friends. Good morning, friends, and welcome. My name is Lauren with Second Star to the Right Books in Denver, Colorado, and I am so excited to share with you today a very special virtual story time with two of my very good friends, Charlton Trujillo and Pat Zietlow Miller. Woo! Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story, Lupe Lopez, Rockstar Rules, with us. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the story yourselves and maybe even get the reading started?
Yeah, you want to tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think we should start by saying Lupe Lopez is a book for rock stars everywhere. Lupe is a girl who goes to kindergarten convinced that she is a rock star drummer, and she has her own rock star rules that she lives by. And she realizes her rock star rules are a little different than their school rules. And it's based on an experience he had in kindergarten. And I think you should tell everybody about that.
Yeah, so just really quickly, I showed up to kindergarten in a little tiny town in South Texas where being different wasn't that normal. And I showed up with my KISS belt buckle, which is a band from way back in the day, and my KISS t-shirt and my KISS medallion, and then a pair of like cheap gas station aviator reflector sunglasses, and even had a KISS lunchbox. And I rolled into school and I thought I was super cool and super confident because I was going to be the drummer for KISS. And the teacher stops me and says, "Take off those sunglasses." And I literally looked at her and said, "Can't do it. I'm a rock star." And then immediately went right to the principal's office and had to plead my case as to why I needed to be, in fact, the drummer for KISS and why all of this had purpose. So the origins of Lupe are based on a true story of growing up as a Mexican-American here in South Texas, but with Pat, and of course the illustrations by Joe Cepeda, who brought this amazing young girl to life. We have a story that is Lupe all of her own.
And I think it's just amazing how traumatic childhood experiences can turn into like wonderful, beautiful picture books. And I was the exact opposite kid in kindergarten. I was a rule follower. I was a wallflower. And the only time I got into trouble in kindergarten was because I didn't drink my milk fast enough at snack time, and they called my mother.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Didn't drink milk fast enough, had to rule the school. So that's what makes for an interesting partnership.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Friends, if you did not get to listen to that story, you really are going to want to go ahead and head to that link in our bio and get your copy of Lupe Lopez so you can read the story yourself. This is not one to be missed. There's English and Spanish versions, so we've got you covered. Now we have some time for Q&A. We've collected some questions ahead of time, so we're going to dive right in. We've got some hard-hitting questions. Here we go. The first question that we have always from all of our young writers out there: how did you get started writing, and how do you write every day? So maybe like, what's your writing routine like?
Okay, well, I got started writing. I had always loved picture books of every kind when I was a kid. In fact, I don't recommend this, but like when I was in school, I would sometimes sneak away from whatever I was supposed to be doing in the library, and I would go read picture books even when I got older. Don't go back and tell my teachers. I feel kind of bad about that. But so I'd always loved picture books, always loved reading them. And then when I got older and I had kids, I was reading picture books to my kids. And I thought, I wonder if I could write one. And so I started trying to write them at night, like after my kids were asleep. And then I was writing every day. And now that my kids are older and I have books out, I don't always write every day, but I try to write, regularly, at least a couple times a week. How about you?
Absolutely, totally different as everything else between us, and yet we're totally best friends, is that I was a reluctant reader. I read about like tropical storms and hurricanes and nerdy stuff that was about weather and, but I grew up in a book desert. I didn't have access to a lot of books. So I kind of created my own stories, and I was like 4 years old. And as y'all all know, I wanted to be the drummer for Kiss. And I also wanted to win an Oscar. And, and there were all these things that I dreamt of, but I really wanted to be a storyteller. And so a lot of that storytelling came from inside. And then later, as I got out into the world, I got to read other people's writing and really experience this wealth of writing. And I started writing books, in middle grade, young adult, and now picture book. And so I can't stress enough the importance of finding a way to take your voice and harness that into a story that feels true to you.
Because there's so many different ways to tell a story.
Yeah.
You can write a book, you can record yourself talking on your
Yes,
phone,
YouTube.
you can make a film or a video,
Yep.
you can just, whisper it to your best friend.
Stories everywhere.
Stories everywhere. Everybody has a story,
Yep.
whether you like reading or writing or not.
Exactly.
You have a story, and your story is worth sharing.
And you have the vehicle to do it. You just
Yeah.
have to have the willingness to take that risk to be heard.
Yep.
Yeah.
So amazing. I'm so glad that you said that. Stories are so important. They really matter. And I love stories are everywhere, friends. So even if you don't like reading or writing, you still have a story and you can still tell it. So what advice would you have for young people who maybe know that they want to tell a story? Maybe they are readers, writers, filmmakers, actors, anything like that. What advice do you have for them so that they can harness that?
Okay. Well, I have two pieces of advice, and then I'm sure you've got different ones. But one of the things is if you're a writer or a creator or a storyteller, you want to ask a lot of questions and you want to be curious. People that are good storytellers are always looking for, why does this happen? How does this happen? What if this happened? And it just unleashes your creativity to discover all kinds of things that you didn't know before. And then kind of along those lines, to do a good job of telling your stories, you have to listen to other people's stories. Listen to people who are like you. Listen to people who are different than you. Because the more you hear other people's stories, the more you learn about the world, the more open your mind gets, and it helps you tell the best version of your story too.
What she said. And I think the other thing would be is, whenever I approach a story, whether I'm writing a poem, whether I'm making a new film, whether I'm writing a novel, I'm always thinking, what's different about today? That moment that I come into a story, what's different about today? Why am I coming to the story today? And so if I'm conscious about it, that's what I'm looking at, because usually that's where I can find the conflict, the thing that brings me to a story. And the other thing is really, going back to what Pat just said about listening to the world around you, is listening to people who are like you, but listening to people who aren't like you. I mean, the way we go to a world that's more equitable and is more, has a greater degree of equality
And empathy.
is by listening to other people who are not always like you. And we grow as human beings, and our story grows as a result, and we grow. And so while Pat and I are very different in a lot of ways, okay, Wisconsin, Texas, Caucasian, Mexican American, rock and roll, rockish,
nerd.
And so, but those are things we see on the outside, but on the inside human level, there are so many ways that we're similar. And that's how we can express the thing that is our story. And I think if you want to write, if you want to make a movie, if you want to post a story or write a comic book
Or draw a picture.
Yeah, whatever that is, you're a storyteller. And don't let anyone take that away from you. Story belongs to you. It doesn't belong to anyone else. It belongs to you. And what you do with it is yours.
And the world needs your story.
Word. Rock stuff.
Amazing. Such good advice and so true. And actually, you touched on my next question that you have kind of brought up a couple times, but I just want to draw attention to, is that you are so opposite and you are such good friends, and you've made this amazing book together. And I think in today's conversations, we are very much pushed to identify and then stay within our group or our tribe, our bubble. But so many amazing things come from talking to people from different backgrounds. So what was it that brought you together? How did you start that conversation? Can you just tell us a bit about your friendship?
E was doing a tour across the country for a documentary film they were making called Everest Summer.
Mhm.
And they needed a place to stay when they were coming through Madison. And I knew a friend of E's, and they contacted me and said, could E stay at your house for a night? And I said, sure. And so E showed up. I knew who they were from online, but we'd never met.
Nope.
They spent the night at my house. They played with my cats. They met my family, and we became friends.
Well, and the part that Pat's leaving out is Pat was also interviewed for the documentary because I was meeting authors across the country to talk about what does it mean to work with youth who are seen often as whether it's at risk or at promise, but kids who are seen as less than, who are often seen as throwaways, who are disregarded. And what do you do if you show up as an artist in that community and you hold up a mirror and reflect the best parts of themselves and say, I believe in you and I believe in your story. And so Pat was part of that conversation that we were having in that film as I was on this unconventional book tour for my YA novel, Fat Angie. And so, the idea is usually with Fat Angie, or any book tour really, is the idea is that we're supposed to go out and talk about our books. And of course, we hope to sell them, right? Because that's what we do. But the idea in this particular sense wasn't just to get you to buy a book, but get you to subscribe to an idea of what it means to see yourself and your story as valuable and impactful now, and not something you had to wait for. And so that's how we met and connected and became friends. And all of these years later, not only did we manifest this amazing story, right, together, but now we'll have a sequel to Lupe. And then we have 2 more books coming together. So it's, Pat in and of herself is an amazing picture book author of 18 plus published books. And, now we'll have 4 together, you know?
And it's just great because we got along, we kind of recognized, like you said, our common humanity. And now we talk on the phone almost every day. We're quarantining through COVID together. Not by choice.
Not by choice, but it is
just
what
sort
it
of
is.
worked out. But yeah, we became really good friends, and it's been I think a good benefit for both of us.
It is. And we, the differences is something that we can learn from each other and grow,
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to point out that you can put wherever you want in this interview is we talked about the importance of talking and listening to people whose stories are different from your own. And you can do that by talking to people, but you can also do it by reading books written by other people. So maybe you live in an area where the people around you are a lot like you. You can read books by people that are different than you and learn a lot that way too.
And when she says that, interestingly enough, we happen to have one right here to start with. So this came out last week. It's called The Notebook Keeper. And Stephen Briseño dropped this at the same time Lupe dropped. I have only met Stephen once, and it was last week. But let me tell you, he read this, and it brought me to heart tears. But this is a story that few people probably know about, and yet is so powerful and emotional, and builds such a degree of humanity.
Yeah, it's about children at the border trying to get into the United States and the process that they go through, and it's beautiful and lyrical and lovely.
Yep.
And then we have Cinder Elliott by Mark Seeley, which is a take on the classic Cinderella tale, except it's Cinder Elliott rather than Cinderella. And it's a great story for Pride or any other time of the year.
So there you go. Books that may not be part of your traditional read, but yet there you go. And very different experiences. Yeah.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned that you knew each other online first, like you had known each other a bit, because I do think that, let's be honest, y'all, technology is not going anywhere. No one's putting down their phones in favor of only picking up books. And there is a really great way for it to work together. So you were familiar with each other online first, and then you came to this real life interaction. And now look at you, friends, co-authors, you're making amazing books. I don't have the book. I just have the temporary tattoos with me at home. That's why I'm making Lupe dance like this. That is so wonderful. And just a couple more questions then to go along with that. For the adults out there who, maybe they are educators or caregivers, what can they do to help introduce their kids or guide their kids in this quest for understanding and empathy? I love that you said empathy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, well, I have 2 ideas. Number one is, look at the books that you have in your house. Look at the art that you have in your house. Who is it created by? Who does it show? And go out and try to fill in the gaps. And you can do that without spending any money if you can use your local public library. But, do your books have mostly male main characters, which a lot of picture books do? So, even if your children are boys, try to get some books in your library that have girls as the main character, or, vice versa, or are the people reflected in your books mostly Caucasian. Try to find a variety of stories, a variety of things, and share them with your kids, and then talk about how is this character like you, even though they might not look initially like they are like you.
And part of the resources in doing that, because that's the action you can do, and you're like, but I don't know where to go, is one, you can always go to your local library. Your local library is a great resource to get information. Two, you can go to your local indie bookstore, should you have one. And if you don't, I promise you there are bookstores like the one we're speaking to today. But three, the other thing you can do is there are online resources. Is it? I don't mean to blank. It's COVID rain, but We Need Diverse Books.
We Need Diverse Books. The CCBC, Children's Cooperative Book Center.
Kidlit of Color is one.
Yeah, the Brown Bookshelf.
The Brown Bookshelf is amazing. And these are just a few of the many online resources that can help guide you to understanding where you can find these books. And then of course there's Las Musas, and my God, and but yes, there are many more that we can also link in this YouTube video or wherever it's posted.
So you can find books and resources
books.
Expand you and your child's worldview.
Yeah.
Yes, that's so important. I love that you mentioned that. Thank you for all of those amazing specific resources. I even wrote a few down, so we will make sure we get those linked. We also wanted to know what the importance is of sharing stories and connecting, because I know you both have written about a ton of different topics. I've had the pleasure of hosting you for Fat Angie for a couple different events. I am the luckiest human alive. And the stories that you both are writing are so, they look on the outside like they're covering such a wide range of topics. But when you boil it down, you're really sharing like your story.
Yeah. I think what makes a good picture book in my mind, or a good story of any kind, is does it have that universal human emotion where somebody can read it and go, oh, I felt that way. Because if you can read a story and you can relate it to how you felt, you connect to that character. And especially for kids, little kids have really big emotions. And I think if they can read a book and see, oh, I'm not the only one who's felt that way, I'm not the only one who's been scared or worried or hopeful or whatever, it helps them realize they fit into the larger world, and it helps them have empathy for other people who are probably feeling the same way.
And off of that, I just want to say that I had an invaluable lesson years ago with a small book club in Illinois. And these young women did not, they were not strictly Caucasian young women. They were a mix. And they told me that everyone was Fat Angie, and that they would hold up the cover in front of their faces and take photos, because it didn't matter if you were a boy or girl or they or them, however you identify or move through this world, that because of the universal elements, you didn't have to be straight or gay, you didn't have to be fat or thin. And I think that lesson was really important to me, because that's that universality that Pat is talking about. And so, and this is just off the top of my head, is the reason why this book in particular has been so heartfelt. One, it's part of my childhood, but the other piece is that we've been saying is, and not to reduce it, but to actually elevate it, is that everyone can be a rock star, because everyone can shine in their own way. You don't have to be on stage. You don't have to
be a musician.
That way that we shine is by being who we are and celebrating the people with us who are like or different from us. And so I think it's that idea that I learned from those girls years ago who were in high school, who said, everyone is Fat Angie. Everyone is Lupe Lopez. You don't have to be the girl in the sunglasses to be the rock star who has something to say and stand up.
Yeah, it's all about finding your individuality, embracing it, and not letting wherever you find yourself happening to be, like, tamp that down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once again, another perfect segue. I swear we didn't even practice this in all the tech testing. So in your story, there is a part where Lupe doubts herself. She's not seeing the results that she wants in the world, and she doubts herself, and she changes how she expresses herself. And it is in coming together and finding community that she's able to express herself again. Can you talk to us a little bit about that, how that came to be in your story and what the importance of that lesson is in real life?
Well, I mean, I know in my own life, I've had moments where I've tried to change myself to fit in with whatever I was, the situation I was in. I once took a job because I thought it was the right job to take, the right thing to do for my career. It was a corporate job. And I was miserable because I wasn't being me. I wasn't using my creativity. I wasn't
Right.
using my writing. I wasn't making anything. And it took me a while to figure that out and realize, like, okay, I need to go and follow, the direction that lets me be my own version of a rock star.
It's interesting because I mean we know it's been around for years. We're like, life isn't a journey. I mean, it's not a destination, it's a journey. We've all heard it, right? But the thing is that I remember learning in my own experiences is that we think that, we hear it, but do we really feel it? It's like we get to that place where we think we've arrived, but really and truly, we're still going and we're
Yeah.
still going. And I think in this particular case, is it, Lupe's having this experience that we all experience throughout our lives, which is that idea that there are times that we feel immeasurable doubt. We question who we are. How do we move forward? How do we find a place to belong? And so as we grow, we all experience this, whether we're in kindergarten, in first grade, in high school, in a nursing home. We're all growing in different ways and we're all having that experience in different ways. And so for Lupe to have it, it makes total sense to me because it's something that Pat and I as human beings have experienced. It's something that many of us universally know, which is even as sure as we can be riddled with doubt. But when we find community, those who can elevate and lift us up and see us for who we are, there is nothing we cannot do.
Yeah, you want to surround yourself with people that make you the best version of yourself.
Yeah. And that's what I think that moment is. And we want to say that to young people. It's like, there are a lot of people who come into your life that maybe they don't celebrate who you are. And maybe they are pulling you away from that thing you're supposed to be doing, which is for you to do good in this world. And this moment is Lupe, she finds people who see her.
Mhm.
And when people see you, that is a powerful thing,
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes, so amazing. I'm so glad you mentioned community. And I know earlier you mentioned libraries and independent bookstores. Friends, that is where community is built around these stories at your local libraries, your local independent bookstores. Yes, independent bookstores, we have the heart and the soul of the industry, of the stories. Please come visit us. We do also, before we leave today, have really exciting news that we are going to do a classroom giveaway. Woo! Let's get this story out there to your classrooms. If you are an educator, you can simply follow us at Second Star, follow both of our creators here today, and leave a comment letting us know what grade you teach, or if you don't teach a grade, maybe you're a librarian, just let us know. You don't have to tell us the school or anything. Just let us know what you do in the schools. We are going to choose one lucky classroom to get a classroom pack with temporary tattoos. We're going to go ahead and include some signed copies of Lupe Lopez. I think we're going to go ahead and include some copies of The Notebook Keeper and Cinder Elliott as well, just to make it a nice roundabout package here.
That's great to share.
And we will have swag.
Yes, and all the swag. We love swag. That is like the most fun thing that the publishers do for the books. So go ahead and follow Second Star. We want to follow Charlton Trujillo and Pat Zietlow Miller. We will make sure that you have all the places you need to follow with the details in the caption or the description. I don't actually know how social media works. I just show my face on it. I don't know. Someone else takes care of that. So friends, thank you so much for being here. And Pat, this was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your story and for answering all of our questions today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
It was
you so
awesome.
much. Yeah.
Of course, we hope that you feel better and recover quickly and that you get to read all the books and drink all the tea in your COVID quarantine.
Very good. That's it.
Well, friends, that's all the time we have today. Thank you for being with us. Once again, my name is Lauren from Second Star to the Right Books in Denver, Colorado. Happy reading, my friends.
See ya.